World, I'm Jesse Waters. Liberal humiliation, that is the subject of tonight's Waters Words. In political warfare, one of the goals is to make your opponent look bad. Sometimes your opponents do that to themselves, and that is what happened to the left this week. Exhibit 1. Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer delivered the Democrat response to President Trump's Oval Office address on the border crisis. 40 million viewers tuned in to see Nancy and Chuck after the president standing awkwardly together at the podium, just one podium. Americans were more amused by their presentation than informed, and the duo got roasted hard on social media. Here are some of the best memes. American Gothic, anyone? How about the twins from The Shining? Supervillains. There they are. I think that's the Joker and Batman. And speaking of supervillains, how about this? I see Pelosi went with the Dr. Evil outfit. Who wore it better? And many saw Nancy and Chuck as parents. We're not mad, we're just disappointed. And my favorite, face swap. Terrifying. As Greg Gutfeld said the other day on The Five, their response should have been followed by, quote, unquote, paid for by Donald Trump for president. Exhibit 2. Another political opponent of the president, CNN White House correspondent Jim Acosta, went down to McAllen, Texas, on the U.S.-Mexican border. Acosta doesn't want a wall and doesn't believe that there is any crisis at the border. But he posted a video that destroyed his own argument.
Here are some of the steel slats that the president's been talking about right here. As you can see, yes, you can see through these slats to the other side of the U.S.-Mexico border. But as we're walking along here, we're not seeing any kind of imminent danger. There are no migrants trying to rush toward this fence here in the McAllen, Texas area. As a matter of fact, there are some other businesses behind me along this highway. There's a gas station, Burger King, and so on. But no sign of the national emergency that the president has been talking about. As a matter of fact, it's pretty tranquil down here.
Hey, Jim, perhaps it's tranquil because there's a border fence. Migrants aren't rushing towards the fence because there's a fence. The illegals cross where there's no fence. Oh my gosh. Is Jim Acosta working for President Trump or CNN? Sometimes it's hard to tell. What an embarrassment. Exhibit 3. Potential Democrat presidential candidate Beto O'Rourke, a sensation on social media, likes to bring voters into his world. Usually he live streams himself cooking steak in the kitchen, things like that. But Beto took it a step too far this week.
So I'm here at the dentist and we're going to continue our series on the people of the border. I'm here with Diana, my dental hygienist. Diana's going to tell us a little bit about growing up in all this.
Beto, hopefully you don't have a colonoscopy anytime soon. Sometimes more is less. Sometimes less is more. So there you have it. Democrats humiliating themselves and Republicans didn't even have to lift a finger. I wish politics could always be this easy. Here with me now, senior advisor to the Trump 2020 campaign, Katrina Pearson, and former White House communications director, Anthony Scaramucci, the author of Trump, the Blue Collar President, which I read and I highly endorse. All right, guys, what did you guys think about my brilliant commentary? I mean, they just shot themselves in the foot and the Republicans didn't even have to squeeze the trigger. Go ahead, Katrina. Ladies first.
Well, you know, look, Jesse, this was really karma. You have CNN and Jim Acosta specifically who spend the majority of their days trying to undermine the president and undermine his agenda with a ton of fake news. And it turns out it all came back around full circle today and yesterday, and it's going to continue moving forward because the president has been very courageous and pushing forth very bold policies to secure the southern border of this country to protect American citizens. And as Jim Acosta pointed out, his position is the right position. Walls work. And CNN just showed the entire country the president is right on this issue.
Yeah, I mean, CNN really stepped on their message on that one. Anthony, it would be like some reporter looking at a block just circled with police officers and saying, you know what, there's no crime.
Yeah, listen, I mean, that was a difficult moment, but the better part of it, I think Katrina would agree with me, was the Dear Diary tweet from the president. I mean, it's
Oh,
just
you're right.
vintage Trump trolling. And so when I saw that, I mean, I had a laugh. And then there were people responding saying that, you know, they still are in joy over the Dear Diary tweet. So listen, I mean, we got to get through this, though, and we have to get the government reopened because it's going to eventually start to affect things like the stock market and the economy, that there's this high level of dysfunctionality. President's 100% right, but unfortunately the system requires a compromise, so hopefully they'll get to a compromise and get the government back open again, because the president's up 28-0 in terms of what he's done for the economy, and I don't want him to lose his lead going into the 2020 election. So
Right, this is critical in order to get this government back open, but he's got to get it back open with some sort of funding for a physical barrier. Let's try the compromise.
No question.
All right? I'm going to be Donald Trump. Anthony, you are going to be Chuck Schumer. I'm sorry. And Katrina, you're going to be Nancy Pelosi. I don't know who I should apologize to more, but you guys agreed to do this. So we have to come to a compromise.
You just wish me bad. You've got hair envy, Waters. You just wish me bad hair. I mean, that's all it was.
I know.
Lots of hair envy.
Listen,
on
no
this
one
show.
has a head of hair like you, Anthony. If you know, I wish I had what was beneath the hair, the brains, and I could make as much money as you did too. All right, so listen, we're in a room. I'm the president. I'm going to say, Crying Chuck, listen, we need votes in the Senate. We need what? 8 Democrat votes in the Senate in order to get this government back up and open, in order to get a physical barrier. You, Senator Schumer, you voted for physical barriers in the past. Why can't you give a little and do what you did before in order to reopen the government?
Okay, well, Mr. President, we're both New Yorkers. We're here in a huge tug of war. So why don't you throw me a bone? What bone are you going to throw me so that I can deliver you these 8 votes?
I already gave you some candy. That's enough bones. But I will say maybe we could talk about DACA and maybe giving some sort of legal status to these young illegal immigrants that were brought here by their parents. Can we maybe go back to that deal, $25 billion for wall funding and DACA fix? Can we do that?
So I think actually he should do that, but he'll probably not want to do that because they're making a lot of money on the fundraising side of resisting the president. So
I
he'll
agree.
probably
I
say
agree.
no
I'd
to
go.
that.
So Nancy, your left-wing caucus, very radical. They don't want to budge an inch on any wall funding. They don't want to do anything on the border. They want status quo. So Nancy, are you going to be able to get your liberal base in line here and treat this as a national security issue instead of a political issue?
Look, Mr. President, I'm going to have to say what my colleague here didn't say, and really advise you that this immoral wall is unnecessary, because as you had your meeting yesterday with the Border Patrol, and we all learned through this meeting, thank you for doing that, that 21 million lethal doses of fentanyl was seized in the last year, according to the Lieutenant Governor of Texas. So 21 million lethal doses were seized. So what we really have to do for moral sake, Mr. President, is to open the borders. That way we can find out just how many lethal doses of heroin would actually come in.
Okay, so the wall that surrounds your property, Nancy, is that immoral too? Should we tear down that wall as well?
Well, you see, Mr. President, that's different.
Oh, it's different.
We're
Okay.
not using taxpayer resources to build my wall, because my family's really, really important.
Okay.
And we're just talking about people, your average American. We're not really talking about people who hold positions to make policies in the country.
Okay.
So
here's what I think.
This is
here's where I
but you're
think.
talking about the difference between, Mr. President.
Yes.
I am a woman. Please let me finish.
It's all right.
We are
Excuse me.
talking about the difference here between a diet and diabetes. So we have to make sure we're comparing the right things, Mr. President.
Okay, brilliant analogy. Speaker Pelosi. Here's what I think we can do with the compromise.
Where are my bifocals, though? I'm going to call my agent.
Yeah,
I only had bifocals.
Anthony, you're supposed to be looking down.
So much more authentic.
Yeah, you're supposed to be looking down and reading all of your comments, right? Here's what I think we can do. In order to get this deal done, I will compromise a little bit, but you guys have to compromise. Every time I speak, I want you two, Nancy and Chuck, to give a united response right afterwards, because I think that contrast makes me look really good. Can we agree with that?
Amen.
I think that'd be a fantastic idea. The American people deserve to hear the truth.
All right. Now, in all seriousness,
for sure.
In all seriousness, really quickly, 30 seconds each. Anthony, I'll begin with you. We're hearing rumors that the White House is preparing for Ruth Bader Ginsburg to step down from her role. She's, had some health issues. She's missed a lot of this week because of those health issues. What do you predict will happen if this open seat gets thrown into the mix politically?
Well, it's certainly going to be a Kavanaugh-like firefight, but the thing that I absolutely predict, and I think a lot of constitutional scholars agree with me, is that Justice Roberts, who was appointed by George W. Bush, will continue to tack to the center and be a very moderating force on that court. Why, you'll have to ask him, but I think that's where he's going.
Yes, I would agree with that. And Katrina, what do you think?
Yeah, I have to agree. I do think that's what's going to happen. But this is also, an amazing opportunity to appoint another Supreme Court justice that, definitely takes seriously the nature of the values of the country from the beginning. And I think it's upsetting to a lot of people that this particular woman possibly may be resigning. And I personally would like to see another woman appointed to this position. I think that
maybe Amy Barrett.
the president
she was in the running last time.
Amy Barrett, I think, would be fantastic, and the president is going to continue to make history throughout his presidency. So that's why we're very proud to support him and continue to push his agenda.
Yeah, if you think about legacy, even if the president just serves one term, having the opportunity for 3 Supreme Court justices, absolutely historic. All right, Nancy and Chuck.
Plus the federal appointments, too.
Oh, yes, exactly. The federal bench.
Yes, the judges,
completely
for sure.
packed. Guys, thank you very much. Go check out Anthony's book, all right? There you go.
Thanks, Jesse.
Thanks, Jess.
Now, while visiting the southern border Thursday, President Trump reiterated his intention of declaring a national emergency if push comes to shove.
We have the absolute right to declare a national emergency, and this is security stuff. This is a national emergency. If you don't have a barrier, whether it's a steel barrier or a concrete wall, substantial and strong, you're never going to solve this problem. You're never going to solve it.
Arizona Republican Congressman and member of the House Border Security Caucus, Andy Biggs, is in complete support of President Trump's stance, and he joins me now. All right, Congressman, we're talking about a border crisis and whether or not a national emergency needs to be declared. Something that was said the other day by a Border Patrol agent in McAllen, Texas, really caught my attention. Let's listen to the sound, and then you can react. Go ahead.
So far this sector has apprehended folks from 41 different countries. Just yesterday we apprehended 133 people from countries other than Central America and Mexico. That includes individuals from India, Pakistan, China, Romania, Ecuador, Nicaragua, on and on and on.
So I was shocked when I heard that. 130 people apprehended just in one day, and Romania, Nicaragua, Pakistan, Congressman. I don't think anybody ever even knew that was happening.
No, it's happening. People from all over the world have found that a way to enter our countries just to sneak across the southern border. But you know what he didn't say is they got 133, but ask him how many they thought got away.
It's a good point.
And the getaways are averaging, depends on who's estimating, but it's 4 to 10 times as much. So they caught 133, but they might have had anywhere from 600 to 1,500 people actually cross the border successfully yesterday.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
And I know you're down there on the border in Arizona, You're hearing from your constituents that a fence or some sort of physical barrier is needed. We've heard that from the Border Patrol agents as well. People say it's not a crisis and there's no baseline to declare a national emergency. Other presidents have declared national emergencies as well. I believe, who was it? Bill Clinton declared 17 national emergencies,
Yeah,
George W. Bush 13, President Obama 12. I mean, declaring a national emergencies is not something like out of thin air. It's been done by other commanders and chiefs in the past. Are you hearing that this is in the pipeline?
Well, you know, I'm hearing that he's seriously considering it, and it's going to trip. The wire's going to trip soon because Pelosi and Schumer are not willing to negotiate at all. The radicals within the House Democrats, they're not willing to budge at all. And it is a real crisis. I mean, look, President Obama declared one over swine flu, for Pete's sakes. And I'm not saying that to diminish the seriousness of swine flu, but we have people crossing our border by the thousands. We have no idea who they are. We know that we're catching people who shouldn't be here in the sense that they are criminal illegal aliens. We know people who are on terrorist watch lists are coming across. And I find it hard to believe that that national security implication doesn't rise to the level of an emergency situation.
Well, you mentioned swine flu. We know in Texas alone, just in 1 year, 32 illegal aliens were convicted of homicide. Now, that's 32 deaths right there in 1 year in one state alone. I believe that's more than people died of swine flu. You know, however way you tabulate it, I think you can call it a crisis. The Washington Post declared it a crisis. Yeah. The media called it a humanitarian crisis last month, and now they're saying it's a manufactured crisis. In my opinion, the Democrat policies of open borders, that's created the crisis because that's attracting them, and because of the legal loopholes, you can't hold people. You got to do catch and release, and you can't keep people together. You can't separate them. It's a mess. 30 seconds. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Look, we every year we find hundreds of people in each of the sectors that have come across the border. They're trying to get in here illegally. We find their bodies. They've been eaten up by animals. This is a real problem. It's a humanitarian crisis, but it's more than that. It is actually a national security crisis because of the people who are coming across. We can build the wall, but if we're not going to do it in Congress, which, by the way, we've been derelict, we need to let the president declare that emergency, and he'll be attacked through litigation, but we need to stand firm behind him.
All right, Congressman. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Jesse.
Coming up, The Rock takes on the Snowflakes. What did you hear what he had to say? But up next, Ron Paul enters Water's World for the...
I think you have to remove the incentives for people to come.
Former Texas Congressman and three-time presidential candidate Ron Paul offering an alternative solution to the immigration problems plaguing our southern border. But has the president's latest pitch for a wall changed his mind? Ron Paul is the host of the Ron Paul Liberty Report and joins me now. All right, welcome to the show, Congressman.
Thank you.
I know that you were a Texas guy for almost all of your career, not on the exact border, but kind of in the Gulf area, so you're familiar with the problems of illegal immigration. You're against the wall, and you think we should look inward to create a new reality where we're not attracting so much illegal immigration. How would that look?
Well, I think it would look a lot different, and we would have to educate the people a little bit that we're not owing everybody who comes here illegal a living and a job and school and medical care and the whole works. Now, I would remove all the incentives, and one of the biggest incentives is easy road to citizenship. So I don't happen to believe that an illegal, should get in line for citizenship, so I'd abolish that.
Okay, so let me just ask you a question. So do you think right now the way the welfare state is in this country, that is primarily what's attracting illegal immigration, or do you think they're coming more for the cash? Jobs.
I would give the credit, if you're going by numbers, I would say the large number would like to just get here and work because of the many that we come across in Texas. I think that is the case. But I also think there's a big incentive to become an easy citizen and bring the kids along and this sort of thing. I don't think that exists in very many other countries. So yes, I think it's a tremendous incentive. I think, believe it or not, there might be some political aspects to this where some of the political parties, or maybe there's one particular political party that thinks they're going to get more votes to vote for more welfare.
Right, because when you bring in the new illegal population, even if they can't vote yet, they're counted towards the census, which determines congressional districting and obviously would help the Democratic Party, they believe. But right now you have the business community, which likes the open borders because they like the cheap labor. And then you have the Democratic Party, which likes the open borders because, as you said, they want future voters. How do you, when both sides of the equation are for open borders, where is there any middle ground to find the solution?
Well, I don't know if there's an exact middle ground, say, on automatic citizenship or easy citizenship because you're an illegal immigrant. I just don't think there should be. There should be no rewards for that. I think the should, be prosecuted for this. But this is a big problem because, the citizenship is very, very easy. I've delivered women who just show up here and they can quickly, because the child was born here, they can quickly get on welfare. And I just don't think that should exist. The whole thing is the people who qualify for welfare, and you say, well, if they think it's immoral to build a wall, what would people think if I say I wouldn't even give them any welfare benefit? Of course, a good libertarian doesn't believe in the welfare redistribution anyway. So saying that we're not going to give you this welfare,
they would just call you a mean person, and that's usually what the left says when they disagree with you. So you're talking about attracting illegal immigrants through additional welfare. That leads me to the next topic. You have this young Congresswoman Cortez, they call her AOC. She wants universal health care, which costs, I don't know, anywhere between $30 trillion and $40 trillion. If you're someone south of the border and you hear this new wave of Democrats is going to contemplate giving universal health care, doesn't that attract more illegal immigration?
Yeah, that would be part of it as well. That would be certainly encouraging. And I try to point out to other people, what would it be like if we, as American citizens, decide we want to live in Japan and march into Japan and say, oh, where do I sign up? And how do I become a citizen? And where will I go for my medical care? And where do I get my education?
I don't think the Japanese would welcome us with open arms.
No, and this is absurd. I see our system as sort of masochistic, but I think socialism in many ways is. But sometimes it's designed for that to get more power. Socialists are. So
you think the Democratic push towards socialism is all about political power? Do they have any compassion towards the people? Do they even believe these systems work? Because if you look throughout the rest of the world, Venezuela, whenever socialism's been tried, it's failed.
I would question it, but I wouldn't let the Republicans get off the hook. Remember who pushed prescription health programs and all this. So the Republicans are great participants in government medicine.
That is true.
So, but I think the... Go ahead.
Let me talk to you quickly about Syria, because I know when you were running for president, you were very much an isolationist, that you were against getting involved in especially the Middle East. And now this president is going to withdraw about 2,000 troops, mostly special operators, from Syria. Do you support that, and do you see any unforeseen consequences?
Yes, I support it. But first off, I don't like me being accused of being an isolationist, because a good libertarian is very open, you know, to trade and other things. And I consider the people who put on sanctions and restrict trade and get involved in punishing people, they're more isolationist than any libertarian would be. No, on my program, my little program that I have, I was excited about what was happening in Syria, and I cheered them on, but I sort of kept my fingers crossed what would happen, and lo and behold, you know, it's slowing up now. It's not going as fast, but I'd do anything to encourage the president to do what's right. He gave the right answers. What are we doing over there? And he said he campaigned on bringing them home. So I would say that's very good, but the big problem he has is he doesn't get reinforcement from the very people he appointed. So as long as he has the same people, then they go out and they undermine him, and they go around the world and say, oh, we didn't really mean that. Yes. But I think his instincts are good, and I think we should not only come home from Syria, but just remember these countries like Syria and other countries are all set up under emergency powers. No, we need to come home.
Right.
And if you're willing to have, you know, a decent reform in currency and trade, I tell you what, it's really the opposite of isolationism. It's bringing people together in a voluntary manner, and that to me I think should be our goal.
Thank you very much, Congressman. Ron Paul, everybody. There he is.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Up next, our body language expert explains Nancy on with what they're not saying. So, our body language expert, Tanya Ryman, is back to help us out. All right, Tanya, let's start with Chuck Schumer first. Go ahead.
The President of the United States, having failed to get Mexico to pay for his ineffective, unnecessary border wall, and unable to convince the Congress or the American people to foot the bill, has shut down the government.
All right, so what do you see from Chuck, but also what do you see from Nancy, who's standing stiff?
There is nothing worse than going on like nonverbal lockdown, which means you just stand there and hope that nobody can read anything because you're not giving out signals, when in fact not giving out signals gives out strong signals.
What is she doing by locking down? Why is she doing that?
When you see this, it's kind of like she's so robotic. She's trying to wait. So in other words, her term went, now she hands over the reins. What she should have done to break the ice would occasionally look over towards him to kind of build that rapport and make it look like natural instead of making them look like
she's trying to disappear because she knows it's Chuck's turn and she's already had her turn.
I don't know about disappear, but I think she wanted to make it look as natural as she could. I'm looking at the camera, I'm holding eye contact with that little red dot, and that's kind of the impression that she was trying for.
Not a natural. Okay, let's go and listen to Nancy speak. Roll the tape.
President Trump must stop holding the American people hostage, must stop manufacturing a crisis, and must reopen the government. Thank you. Leadership.
Okay, what was that with her mouth?
You know, she went, to you, Chuck. So, you know, first of all, none of them did well reading off the teleprompter. They didn't come across as even remotely kind or authentic. They all three of them off the teleprompter at this point looked like they were trying so hard. And her voice was completely different than it normally is. She normally has a rather robust voice, and here she is reading off that teleprompter, and you can hear the difference in the way she's speaking as she has to read.
What was this lip movement where she passes the torch?
Yeah, when she,
what is this?
When you do that, see this is a mouth tightening. So when you tighten your lips like that, it's kind of like disdain and contempt. Here you go.
She doesn't like Chuck.
Well, there's a lot.
All right, that's how I'll interpret it. All right, you don't have to say it. All right, here's Donald Trump at the wall the other day down at the border. You know, very animated as usual. Take a look. Tell me what you say.
They come through the border and they go out throughout our nation. So you'll have crime in Iowa, you'll have crime in New Hampshire, you'll have crime in New York, you'll have crime in places, you know, you don't associate it with the border, but it comes through the border.
Very animated.
Well, his hands always do frame his words. That's what he does. But what was good about this was, as he's talking and he's using it, he's going, it'll be around. So he's consistent and he looks congruent and he sounds like he knows what he's talking about. So whether you like and agree with the wall or not, he came across strong right here. And he's animated and he talks to people as if it's every day. And that's a complete disconnect from what he did when he had to speak to the teleprompter.
And then we don't have time to analyze Senator Cruz sitting there in the back with the beard. Maybe we'll get to that next time. All right, Tanya. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Still ahead, the porn star turned preacher. Wait till you see this, but first, Diamond Invest this week. Now, the media immediately criticizing his speech. frequent Trump critic Ana Navarro filed her nails while her CNN co-panelists discussed crimes committed by illegal immigrants. Watch this.
Even if I were to grant you that, okay, the point is the illegal alien crime rate should be zero. It should be, you can do your nails. You know who can't do their nails? Are people who've been killed, Anna, by dangerous, known illegal aliens who've been allowed to stay in this country because of the leftist policies that people like you promote in so-called sanctuary cities.
Wow. Here with their thoughts, Diamond and Silk. Pretty callous display by Ana Navarro at CNN. What do you guys think?
Yes, callous is very disrespectful. She lacks empathy, and maybe the reason why she can't empathize with other families that's been severely affected by illegal aliens is because she's not a victim or she hasn't been severely impacted by it. But it's time for her to wake up, smell the coffee, stop acting like a sideshow over there on the fake news, and call Nancy and Chuck and tell them to fund the wall.
Yeah, I mean, everybody was weeping when the president's policies were temporarily separating children from their families at the border, and now you have families permanently separated by criminal illegal alien killers, and she's filing her nails. Unbelievable. All right, we played this at the top. Beto O'Rourke, running for president, likes to film himself doing everything in his personal life. Here he is at the dentist. Watch this.
So I'm here at the dentist, and we're going to continue our series on the people of the border. I'm here with Diana, my dental hygienist. Diana's going to tell us a little bit about growing up in El Paso.
I mean, kind of a stunt. I can't take it seriously anymore. What do you guys think?
Well, if he's doing that because he's going to be running for president, we're just not that into him. We're not going to be voting for him. You would think he would use his platform to push for border security for the American people. Instead of getting your teeth cleaned, he's doing something that some Americans can't even do. You have some of our veterans that can't afford to get their teeth cleaned. You know, so I don't know. Beto is sick.
That's right. Veto Beto.
That's what we're going to do. He's a little sick.
Okay. Lastly, we have The Rock, who tore into snowflakes. Listen to what professional wrestler and actor said. I think he said something like, while the people's champion, he applauded everybody can be who they want to be. They said, so many good people fought for freedom and equality, but this generation are looking for a reason to be offended. Wow. Can you guys smell what The Rock is cooking?
Oh, absolutely.
That's right.
Not only that, but you know, you have a lot of these millennials, they want to be disruptive, very disrespectful.
That's right.
They feel like their opinion is the only opinion, and if you say something other than what they want you to say, you're ostracized, criticized, or stigmatized for it. And that has got to stop, and I'm happy that people like The Rock, and I hope other people, no matter what side of the aisle you're on, start speaking out about it.
It's time for these millennials to realize you do not have a sense of entitlement. You have to work for what you want and whatever you want to get. You know, if I have an opinion, it's my opinion. If you have your opinion, it's your opinion. We have to learn how to agree to disagree when we have a disagreement.
That's right.
All right, ladies. Diamond and Silk, there they are. Catch them on the Chit Chat tour. I think they're coming to D.C., the Trump Hotel now. All right, Brittany, take us through this. How did you get involved in porn?
Well, I got involved in porn just from, I felt very rejected growing up as a child. So I was basically looking for love in all the wrong places. I started dancing in college, and a couple producers came in, and they were, you know, saying things to me that I didn't hear at home. They were saying, you are beautiful, you're destined to be a star, we absolutely love you. We make romance movies. If you're ever interested, give us a call. So
romance movies, okay.
Yeah, nothing romantic about a porno. I knew what they were talking about, and so I figured, you know what, I'm already promiscuous, and I already take my clothes off for money, so I might as well take it one step further.
So what are the dangers from the porn industry? Was there a lot of drug abuse? What did you encounter?
I definitely encountered a lot of drug abuse. I myself was hooked on heroin and various different kinds of pills, cocaine, and for a short period of time, crystal meth.
Were you doing that to numb yourself, or were you doing that to get through the scenes? Why were you so involved in drug use?
Yeah, I mean, it started because I was about 105 pounds and a director told me that I was fat and that I needed to lose weight. So I started using cocaine and it was just like this instant rush, and it actually helped me get through the porn scene. So.
All right, and so you're making a lot of money at the time. Around how much are you making when you were in the business?
I would make about $30,000 a month from porn, and then in escorting, you know, I could make about $50,000 in a weekend in New York.
Wow. All right. So that's a lot of money. But you tried to get out of the business. Were you successful right away or not?
No, not right away. I tried at my 3.5-year mark, made Jesus my Lord and Savior. Satan wasn't happy about my decision, sent a man in my life because men were my weakness. He was a pimp, and I ended up getting back into the adult film industry for another three years or so.
Oh, man.
And this time I was giving all my money away to a pimp.
Why were you doing that? Did he have that much control over you?
Yeah, you know what? He definitely had that type of power over me. He won me over through manipulation. He made me feel like, he made me feel good about myself in the beginning. He was taking me to church. He was a backslidden Christian. And then from there, you know, he kind of said, it's time, like, let's get you back into the adult film industry. I had burned every bridge in my family, so I kind of felt like, all right, this is what I got to do at this point in my life.
And then eventually you found God, completely quit the business. How did that transpire?
So I had started reading the Bible over those next 3 years that I was with the pimp, and I just remember God telling me one day, you know, you need to leave him. And so God helped me to get away by telling me to call, you know, my mother, and she came and picked me up within 20 minutes. And I was on my way to film a porn scene in Las Vegas, but I'd brought my Bible. So I had the Bible with me on the airplane, and I was reading the book of Revelation, and I read this scripture that basically said, you know, I have this thing against you. You tolerate
World, I'm Jesse Waters. Liberal humiliation, that is the subject of tonight's Waters Words. In political warfare, one of the goals is to make your opponent look bad. Sometimes your opponents do that to themselves, and that is what happened to the left this week. Exhibit 1. Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer delivered the Democrat response to President Trump's Oval Office address on the border crisis. 40 million viewers tuned in to see Nancy and Chuck after the president standing awkwardly together at the podium, just one podium. Americans were more amused by their presentation than informed, and the duo got roasted hard on social media. Here are some of the best memes. American Gothic, anyone? How about the twins from The Shining? Supervillains. There they are. I think that's the Joker and Batman. And speaking of supervillains, how about this? I see Pelosi went with the Dr. Evil outfit. Who wore it better? And many saw Nancy and Chuck as parents. We're not mad, we're just disappointed. And my favorite, face swap. Terrifying. As Greg Gutfeld said the other day on The Five, their response should have been followed by, quote, unquote, paid for by Donald Trump for president. Exhibit 2. Another political opponent of the president, CNN White House correspondent Jim Acosta, went down to McAllen, Texas on the U.S.-Mexican border. Acosta doesn't want a wall and doesn't believe that there is any crisis at the border. But he posted a video that destroyed his own argument.
Here are some of the steel slats that the president's been talking about right here. As you can see, yes, you can see through these slats to the other side of the U.S.-Mexico border. But as we're walking along here, we're not seeing any kind of imminent danger. There are no migrants trying to rush toward this fence here in the McAllen, Texas area. As a matter of fact, there are some other businesses behind me along this highway. There's a gas station, Burger King, and so on. But no sign of the national emergency that the president has been talking about. As a matter of fact, it's pretty tranquil down here.
Hey, Jim, perhaps it's tranquil because there's a border fence. Migrants aren't rushing towards the fence because there's a fence. The illegals cross where there's no fence. Oh my gosh. Is Jim Acosta working for President Trump or CNN? Sometimes it's hard to tell. What an embarrassment. Exhibit 3. Potential Democrat presidential candidate Beto O'Rourke, a sensation on social media, likes to bring voters into his world. Usually he live streams himself cooking steak in the kitchen, things like that. But Beto took it a step too far this week.
So I'm here at the dentist, and we're going to continue our series on the people of the border. I'm here with Diana, my dental hygienist. Diana's going to tell us a little bit about growing up in all this.
Beto, hopefully you don't have a colonoscopy anytime soon. Sometimes more is less. Sometimes less is more. So there you have it. Democrats humiliating themselves, and Republicans didn't even have to lift a finger. I wish politics could always be this easy. Here with me now, senior advisor to the Trump 2020 campaign, Katrina Pearson, and former White House communications director Anthony Scaramucci, the author of Trump, the Blue Collar President, which I read and I highly endorse. All right, guys, what did you guys think about my brilliant commentary? I mean, they just shot themselves in the foot, and the Republicans didn't even have to squeeze the trigger. Go ahead, Katrina. Ladies first.
Well, look, Jesse, this was really karma. You have CNN and Jim Acosta specifically, who spend the majority of their days trying to undermine the president and undermine his agenda with a ton of fake news. And it turns out it all came back around full circle today and yesterday, and it's going to continue moving forward because the president has been very courageous and pushing forth very bold policies to secure the southern border of this country.